All right. So really quickly here, one fun thing about the set we're going to use today, it's called Butterfly Garden. And if you have it in your set and you've kind of looked at it a little bit, what I love about this one is it's that beautiful one piece. And it has those awesome coordinating dies that we're going to use. But if you look at just the arrangement and layout, all on its own without any dies, it's beautiful, perfect for a one layer card. So that's why one of our cards is going to be a little more along the lines of that one layer. We're going to add some fun little touches for a little bit of dimension that's really simple and easy to keep that layout. And I did just remember I'll be doing my homework with you guys. So if you did not get homework done, don't worry about that. I have my card bases prepared, but I forgot to cut my extra layers for dimension. So I'll just run all those through when we get to that part on our cards. So if you didn't get that done, you'll still be able to keep up really easy. All right. Well, are you guys all ready to get started? I'm kind of wondering, I was so ready on time. I wonder if I should wait a few minutes for everyone to find us or go ahead and just switch it around and get started. What do you guys think? I think I'll switch my camera on and we can start looking at some of our stamping. That way I don't run over and keep you guys long at the end of the day. And if you come in late, you can always back up or pause in there and catch some of that. So I'm going to set my computer back out of the way so I can keep those comments in place and make sure that my video feed picks up well and is all high quality like we want. So here's the set we're going to start with. Stamp dice, and my extra bits and pieces in the back here. Those are the ones I ended up not using for my cards. They're all tucked back there and ready to go. But we're going to start. Oh, and then one other thing, be really careful here with these dies. You've got those two little extra word dies that you don't want to lose that hit those two big words on the stamp set. So I feel like I have to be kind of careful so I don't have those hop away and disappear on me. So I thought I'd mention that. All right, I'm going to set all this aside for now because we are going to start with our stamping. So one thing I'm going to mention here, oh, Margaret, I'm so glad you're having such a good time. And Yvonne, see, perfect. You don't have to worry about it. We're only going to use the big ones anyway. So if you lost some of them, it likely wouldn't matter. You could just mix and match different ones. Okay, so this stamp set, I'm going to peel it off the back here. One thing we always say, I tend to kind of just set these big stamp sets down and peel my backing off of them instead of peeling the stamps off the background. It's photopolymer, it's pretty sturdy, but I don't want to stretch and deform anything, especially on the edges. So it's just something I don't like to take the risk of doing. And if my backing, when you do this, you'll notice your backing might and just under out of the way, that'll help hold it flat so you don't have to worry about it. And I said that and it curled up and flung it on so I'm going to put my scissors on top of it too. All right, so this is obviously a very easy size that you can fit on a standard A2 card panel. See, it fits on there. There's even room for the magnets. In my description though, I sometimes tend to just go for a bigger piece of cardstock. I like that extra space. It's just paper. You don't have to do it this way. So if you want to use it on a smaller piece, totally fine. But I like to do this because I've got lots of room for the magnets to stick. It's just more space to tape my stencils down onto. The one we're going to heat emboss, it gives me more room to hold onto it without my fingers burning. So do what you prefer. This is just a half panel of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So it's 8.5 long by 5.5 wide. You can kind of see it on the marking there. So I just took one piece of cardstock and cut it in half to have a nice big piece. Again, if you want to conserve your paper a little more, then absolutely be fine. Oh, missing the supply. Well, I'm glad you'll be able to catch up on them later. And this time you can just relax. I missed your name as it scrolled by there, but hopefully you'll be able to just watch and keep track. I just remembered I need to put this up on my phone. There we go. Then I'll be able to see the comments in another spot. That way I won't miss anything. So again, I'm using a bigger piece of paper. That's my preference. If you want to conserve and be a little more delicate on that, feel free. So while I have this lined up in here and ready to go, here's what I'm going to do. I am actually going to stamp and heat emboss for our second card now, and then I'll stamp for the card we're going to stencil. So I'm going to kind of get some of the stamping out of the way. So we're going to get all that lined up in there, and I'm going to grab my powder tool. So this first one, even though it's for our second card, we're just going to get it all ready now. That way we can just move from stenciling to stenciling and go along the line. So powder tool on here, since we're going to be heat embossing, I want to make sure I just have it held in a little clip. It's nothing fancy. And then pull out my clear embossing ink. Carol, that's why I like to do that. Like I said, I feel like it saves me a lot of frustration, so it's worth it to me. One other thing I'll mention, I kind of grab with my fingernails and make sure it's pushed down. Just pick a corner, one corner and one side, because not so much for this one. This one's just heat embossed. But when you get to the other one, we're going to stamp in a lighter color, kind of like Shannon did for her class and Leah did for hers, and then restamp over the top. So it's going to be really important that it's lined up exactly. So I just try and make a practice of that. If you saw me in the comments, you might have seen that I was recalling a time where I was doing a live class and I messed up the second stamping. It was just a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live, and yeah, I had to go re-stencil the panel on high speed. So Linda, we're gonna do, let me show you. I forgot to pull my cards out. You guys, I've been in front of the computer all day, so if I forget something, I'm watching the comments to keep up with you. We're going to create this card first, but I'm stamping the gold heat emboss piece for this one right now, just to get it out of the way so we're free to go through all of our stenciling. So basically we're going to be doing both sets of stamping. The other bonus is before I stamp this in black and need to clean it, I'm only using clear embossing ink, so I won't have to clean my stamp in between these because it's not going to hurt. So that's part of why I'm doing this now. It's kind of a lazy trick to save me some cleaning time. So we're stamping this one now, then we'll this one and then come back. Hopefully that's not confusing. All right. I like with clear embossing ink to stamp it at least 2 times, especially on a nice delicate design like this. There's a will stick well. I tend to be a light stamper. Leah and I both. I think we tend to do that. And then when you use the powder tool, I feel like that does a good job of keeping the embossing powder from sticking where you don't want it to, but it also makes it a little more work for the ink to stick as well. So I stamped that a total of 3 times. And hopefully the internet, my internet's been great all day. It would kind of figure that it would be difficult now. So I'm just going to set this slightly aside because we're going to use this again in a minute and pull out the gold embossing powder. Hopefully it's kind of settling in. I'm going to keep going slow. Because I just stamped, so we're just going to add the gold embossing powder now. On my end, it looks like it's okay now, so. Let's hope it just was a momentary short glitch. Leah if you can comment and let me know if it still seems to be freezing or if it's working okay. Leah's behind the scenes moderating. Okay. So it might have been a Facebook. Facebook has been, it can tend to be a little glitchy on occasion. So hopefully that was the end of that. So Leah's behind the scenes. So I'm doing my best here to keep an eye on these comments and answer them as we go along. But Leah will be answering as well, and she will catch any that I miss along the way. All right, I'm gonna run my heat gun here and go ahead and heat set this after I clean that little bit of embossing powder off my desk, and then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, the panel's now heat embossed. And of course, use whatever gold embossing powder you, oh, I missed a little spot. Let me fix that. There we go. I always check my heat embossing just by kind of turning it and making sure it's all reflective when it's a gold like that. So sometimes, and that's when I know that I missed something and it didn't quite shiny. And you know what's funny? Look at just how elegant that is on its own. Like a bridal shower thank you cards. It's simple as that. Put a thank you on there and you're all set. So I'm gonna take this now. We'll just set that aside. I'm gonna kind of just set it under something a little bit heavy. Sometimes heat embossing can kind of slightly warp your panel and it can make lining up the stencils a little tiny bit tricky. You can run it through a die cut machine sandwiched in a piece of just like printer paper. But since we have a little bit of time, I'm just going to kind of set it under another MISTI I have. So if I forget where I put it and kind of panic, just remind me it's under the MISTI, Heather. It's under the MISTI. Okay. I think it's either a local issue or a Facebook issue. I'm sorry if it's freezing. This will definitely be available for replay. It's also being recorded. So if anything just glitches out and gets bad, we do have an HD hard recording of it as well that we can post. Okay. Facebook is just not our friend right now. It's the end of the day and it's decided it's tired. Right, I'm gonna move my embossing powder stuff, put all that away because I don't need that anymore. And now we're gonna move on and start our stamping for this. So just like with some of the other cards we did today, I'm gonna stamp in a lighter ink. I'm gonna use Rocky Slope. It's a great neutral gray. You can use any of the lighter colors or darker for that matter. We're gonna stamp over it with black at the end. So use any color that you'd like. This is just gonna allow me to line up and match up those layering stencils to the image and give me something to look at. But our detail black ink, it's a hybrid ink. We've said this lots today. I know I'm repeating, but in case this is your first live that you've tuned in today, because it's a hybrid ink, so it's friendly for watercolors as well as alcohol markers, but it does take a little extra time to dry. So if you want to just use this, you either need to heat set it, stamp it ahead of time, which obviously I don't have time to do today, or stamp with a different color and then come back and stamp over. So I'm going to go that route today just because it's kind of my preference and favorite. So stamp that with that Rocky Slope. And again, on this one, it doesn't have to be a perfect image, just like Leah mentioned. we're only using it to line up our stencils with. So that's actually a pretty good image anyway. Judy, double check that you didn't get them. Mine fell off the bottom a lot. They might have just slipped off the bottom, those word dice. So double check, they might have slid off in the packaging or in the box or something like that, depending on how you opened and stored them. It's possible because they are kind of small and dainty. Okay, I'm gonna just wipe this. I keep just a spray bottle of water here. I never remember to get this cloth wet when I come into craft. And I don't want to just constantly leave wet rag. So I started just kind of spraying it down to get it damp when I need it. And then I can just get part of it damp and I still have some of it dry if I want as well. Leave that piece in your MISTI. Leave that lined up. We're going to put that back in to stamp over at the end. So just close this up, kind of set it back out of the way, and then I'll have that ready to pull out in a little bit. All right, I still have stray embossing powder. I feel like embossing powder is like glitter. It's so devious. It just gets everywhere. Okay. All right, so Judy, Leah will comment on there, but email customer service and they will make sure and get those taken care of for you. Extra little pieces, save those for another card. All right, this is a fairly simple layering stencil. There's only 4 layers. We're going to go right through them in order, starting with stencil number 1. And we're just going to line them up. This is one of the layers. So one thing we are going to do a little bit unique and different, not a big deal, but it's kind of a fun little trick. We're going to do a little bit of masking so we can add some different color. Oh dear, I wonder what happened. My stamp set came fine in this set. So make sure when you send an email to customer service, include a picture of how it's stamping. And for now, if you just want to do it without the stamp set, you can do that and just get a no line coloring look and still create these cards. Sorry about that. It is a pretty delicate, detailed stamp, so something must have just happened to a batch of them. All right, so this stencil layer, I'm going to hold it up a little bit closer. It's got mostly greenery, but you can see 2 spots here that have color on the butterflies. That's where we're going to go a little bit off layer and do a bit of masking. I'll grab my ink stands here so I can get these out. And I can't remember if I said this. I know I was thinking about it. Because I did this large panel, I have plenty of room to tape at the top and the bottom. So this is one other reason I like using this bigger. I could tape it to my desk, but now I have everything taped. I can pick it up and show it to you. I can spin it around. I can turn it which way I want to stencil. Kind of just makes my life a little bit easier. So for this layer, we are, and yes, Susan, the small dies, they should be in with the larger die for this set, just kind of held on the bottom with the magnets. Okay, I'm gonna pull out my blending brushes. All right, so if you are having trouble with the stamp, just use the alignment guides. Grab an A2 panel of cardstock, line those up, and you won't get all the details of the stamp, but you can still do it with the no line coloring, and then you can get it put together. So what we're going to mask is I'm going to mask. So some people in this did it without masking. I'm too messy with my ink blending, so I don't trust myself on that. So I'm going to mask off around just the 2 little butterflies that are right here and here. Just because I'd rather waste a little bit of masking tape and know that I'm not gonna get ink anywhere that I don't want it. I'm not gonna mask everything off. I'm just gonna do a good little section around both of them. I'm using Post-it tape. That's kind of my, my favorite. it's easy to use. So I'm going to start with Peach Fuzz. And you know what? This is an extra step. If you don't feel like doing that, it's totally fine. It's still going to look beautiful. If you look on the stamp packaging, it's kind of designed for that to be colored. And we're doing aqua on the leaves, which is still going to be beautiful with the coral reef. So if you want to simplify, by all means, just do that. I just like showing that that is another option, because a lot of times it's something you don't think of, like, oh, I don't have to only go with the colors that the stencil's designed with. So I'm just going to come in with my Peach Fuzz and blend that, and very tiny bits. So you're not going to be using much. It's just going to add a fun little tidbit. And I'm going to save all those little pieces, because then as we do our other masking, we can use those. But then I'm also going to put some of them back on to cover up. A little smaller piece there. I want to cover up just where I stenciled that butterfly, but not lose. There we go. Didn't want to cover any more of the leaves, only the butterfly. So I don't blend aqua over the top of that orange now. Okay, moving over to Ocean Breeze, which is a beautiful aqua. I love doing greenery in unique and different colors. Aqua is one of my favorites for greenery, especially by the time we get to the coral reef for the flowers and the florals. So we're just going to blend coral reef over. I think I have a little, this is just my aqua blending brush. I don't have a soft and a deeper one. So I think I have a little residual darker ink. So blend heavy if you want more color, blend lighter if you want less, but mine filled in there really nice and quick. So yeah, we masked off. I'm gonna clean off my stencil here, and then I'll peel off these masks so you can see. We did the butterflies in orange. Again, just if you want to, this is all optional. You can do your own version and make it your own and keep it simpler if you just want to leave it in that aqua color. And then the rest of the greenery is all in that beautiful aqua marine color. Another color I often love to do for greenery, we're talking about unique color combos. I love to do grays or blues. So many different possibilities. All right, I'm gonna pull off those pieces of tape, and we're gonna do our first, we're a quarter of the way through our stenciling already. That's how quick this set goes. And there is that first soft, pretty layer. All right, stencil 2 is gonna be most of our flowers. So we're gonna line that up. This one, especially if you line up that flower and that flower, everything else is gonna line up perfectly. Do my big pieces of tape, reuse those and add them. Pam, yes, Ocean Breeze was the second color. I keep saying aqua, but Ocean Breeze is just a super soft aqua. It's in our kind of aqua color family. So I always think of it as light aqua, but technically the name of it, yes, is Ocean Breeze. That is correct. Okay, on this layer, we don't have to mix things up any, keeping it simple. This one is only going to be coral reef. And this is going to hit some of the butterfly details and some of the florals. And Lee and I both have a long-standing love affair with coral reef. It is by far, I think if we could only have one pink fresh ink color, this right here would be it, hands down. And these layers, because this is so delicate, telling you, the stenciling goes so super duper fast. I love that. So this one's all ready. Not much effort required. There's not even really enough shade to, or space to worry about needing to add shading or depth in corners. You could get a tiny blending brush and hit those different if you want, but you really don't need to. Okay, here is our second magical reveal. gets more re-inked than anything. That's probably my most more layer. I think it's going to be, actually, I think the last two, we're going to do a little mask on the butterfly layers again. Again, totally optional, but not on stencil 2. Stencil 1, there is. Stencil 2, no. And then the other ones, we're going to do a tiny bit of masking. And our next two colors, you'll probably guess that we're going to hit the orange, the apricot for the butterfly layers on stencil 3, and aquamarine for the second layer on the greenery. So here is stencil number 3. And the easiest way to line this one up, there's really only one, nope, I couldn't remember. One layer that hits the butterfly. So if you pretty much hit that one, and then just make sure, the best way I found to line this one up is just make sure you're seeing the aqua through all of the other layers. These in particular are super whimsical and kind of a playful feel to this layering stencil. So if you're using the alignment guides, if you're doing it with no line without your stamp set, then it's going to be super easy for you because you just line those up. So we only have one little spot to mask off here. So I'm just going to use some of that previous masking tape. And we'll just layer, because I don't want to do aqua over the orange. I think that's going to look. So these other inks that we're using, I mean, that's it. One little bloop and we're done with the orange. So that's how little we had to worry about on here. Now I can pull off those scrap pieces and grab that same little mask that I used before and just cover up now that butterfly. So now I won't get any aquamarine. Now we're actually using the aquamarine. I won't get any of that mixed in with the orange. So that one little tiny spot, that's our butterfly. It's now covered up, and we'll do the aquamarine over the top. So simple blending. These are so tiny and delicate. I just can't believe how quick they go. So if you're just getting into stenciling and ink blending, these are a great way to do it because they're just so easy. I'm just using a dry microfiber cloth to clean these off. And all of the ink colors I'm using are really easy to clean. Whether this card, on the stamp, just like on the stamp, the one with the clear embossing ink first, so I wouldn't have to clean the detail black before moving to clear embossing. All of these colors clean off the stencils really easy. And then when we move to this color, we've got that bold bright pink and the bold bright green that cleans off a little harder. So by doing this one first, when we stencil this one, I don't have to really clean my stencil in between. Just wiping them off dry with the microfiber cloth is going to be all we need. So a simple little trick for that and why I'm doing it the way I am. All right, we are getting close to the end there. Holly, that is totally okay. You know what, Shannon's cards, I tend to be a little more of a soft, delicate blender, but I tell you what, watching Shannon do her cards and those bold, dark, lovely blends, it made me want to turn into a heavy-handed blender. They were so beautiful. So there is no right, there is no wrong, because every one of our cards, that's what's so great about handmade. Everyone's cards that you make in class today, none of them are going to look exactly like mine. None of them are going to look exactly like anybody else's. They're going to be all yours. I say a lot, it's handmade, not Hallmark. Okay, and here is our final layer here. And what we did on this one, let me look at my list here real quick. Yeah, the sweet mustard is for the butterflies. I had to remember what I did on there. Again, these would look beautiful just doing the passion fruit, but if we're going to take the time and do it, we might as well just go for it, right? So I'm going to mask off everything. And if you have small brushes or you are more talented on ink blending and not making a mess, the matter. So, all right, sweet mustard going in on the little space on the butterflies here. Sweet mustard is such a pretty, happy, bold, but kind of warm, cozy yellow. I don't know how else to describe it there. It's a very happy color for me. I love it. Okay. Just like that, we're done with that color. Now we need to mask off those butterflies going the other direction so that we don't ink blend the coral reef over the top. And I love that I can reuse all of these pieces of Post-it tape too, multiple times. So you're getting a lot of use out of them. And then ending here with passion fruit for our last one. And same, I think I used candy apple last time with this red. So give me a minute there to make sure I don't have too much red. I just clean off on my microfiber cloth, clean the brushes. So I have one for each color family. And for the most part, I just kind of rub it off until it starts to look kind of more faded and clean. So I just keep finding clean spots. And so I have lots of these lovely little tie-dyed rainbow microfiber cloths hiding in my laundry room, or mostly in my craft room, but they make their way to the laundry room to get washed. And all right, little tiny stencil areas on this. And then we're all done there. Here is all our little, look at how pretty the little Post-it tape. I love all the little rainbow ink blending. Another little tidbit. Okay, I'm gonna clean that off just a little more. And then here is that final magical reveal. Super fun how these flowers, some of them just kind of stay white to keep a fun little detail. So again, if you're doing this the no line, then when you die cut, you'll be able to see those pieces, as well as you can add one of the little jewels or something in there to fill in too. Okay, what do you, do I wash them in their own load? I just throw them in. We use these same microfiber rags to clean our floors. We throw them on a mop handle and we use them for our counters and everything else. So yeah, I just run them all. I don't run them with white towels, but I wouldn't recommend that necessarily. All right, I am a little more assembly line in my card style. So now that we've got this done, instead of fully completing that first card, I'm going to switch over and we're going to just finish all of our ink blending. Then I can put all my ink blending tools away all at once. And then we'll just be able to move on to all the other steps for our cards. So go ahead and pull out your other little bit of, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Yep. So pull out your other stamped and heat embossed panel. We're setting this other one aside. We'll go back and stamp it in a few minutes. But again, I just kind of feel like sometimes moving assembly line, some of the other cards were a little more specific to two different directions, but this is just a little easier to do some of it all at once. So back we go to stencil one. Usually I would clean these with rubbing alcohol in between. Like I mentioned, none of my colors are that concerning to me, so I'm not going to take that extra step today. Just because I don't feel like it is super necessary. Okay, so first stencil. And we're going to line up with, again, mainly that those two butterfly wing areas. And then essentially everything else kind of falls into place. Like I said, it all kind of depends on what I'm doing. I don't always do everything assembly line, but on these particular cards, like I said, I kind of planned it out so I could do it in a little bit of a different way that would allow me to not spend as much time cleaning, because I don't know about anyone else, but cleaning's not the fun part of craft. I mean, cleaning up, tidying my desk, I like, but if I can avoid cleaning my stencils in between, I will do that in a heartbeat. Happily, happily. Yeah, Leah, we do kind of know each other's creative process pretty well. We craft together enough that every now and then we surprise each other, but okay, the two colors we're going to use on this is the only one, I think I forgot to say it, I was so busy talking. This is the only one I'm going to do any masking on for this one. The only one we're just going to do Raspberry Bliss for those two little spots on the butterflies. Then we'll unmask that and everything else will just be one ink color at a time. I promise this is the only masking. I just still liked keeping the butterflies all pink and not mixing the greenery on there. Okay, Raspberry Bliss is you used it in Shannon's class, I believe. And it's such a beautiful, rich, dark pink. You don't need a lot of ink, just kind of dip the edges in there and get that inked up there. Nice and easy. I don't want to get too much on my brush there because I'm going to use it for the slightly softer pinks that we're going to use later on. And then just use my microfiber cloth to clean that off. Hold on. Well, I did get, there we go. I just want to make sure there's no excess. I noticed I had some of the pink ink on my thumb. So I'm going to make sure I get that off. I'm a messy enough crafter that I don't need any extra help to get a mess. So once I pull that off, I am going to just do a tiny bit more, make sure I don't have any extra ink because I don't want to mix pink in with my green. It's just not as pretty that way. And we'll cover up those two little spots on the butterflies. And now all we have to do is add the green. Sure. I'm sorry. Feel free if you want to watch on replay and skip it up. I just kind of wanted to, I know some people prefer that that more assembly line. So I wanted to just show a different way to do it. So faster and saves us some time, which is kind of fun as well. Grassy knoll. A little bit, for me, it is heavier handed. I'm trying to leave a few areas kind of a little softer and lighter just to get some depth and variation. But I am going heavier handed because this one with that gold heat embossing is a little bit of a bolder color. That's Grassy Knoll that we were using. I'm trying to keep them in the camera here so you can see the green. So I started with Grassy Knoll. The second layer on this will be our darker green. And I know we've said it lots today, use what inks you have, especially on this particular set. It's so easy to change the colors. There's only 4 stencils and really 2 dominant colors, something for the greenery and something for the flowers and the butterflies. Yeah, Yamalet, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. I'm glad that you appreciate the assembly line as well. Sorry that we're hitting some people's OCD, but I'm glad that some of you have a mind that works that way too. Okay, I'm going to move on here to, so there's that reveal. Look at how pretty that green is with the gold heat embossing. I love that. Okay, no more. I'm going to get rid of all these little masky pieces because I don't need those anymore. From here on out, it is one color at a time. So our next one will be Sparkling Rose. I'm going to put one of those ink stands out of the way now because we don't need that anymore. And then we'll just get stencil number 2 lined up. Again, hit the 2 flowers and the butterflies, and this one is super duper easy to line up. Okay, Sparkling Rose. Ooh, throwing my lid around. And because I used Raspberry Bliss, I'm going to take a second and just slightly clean off my blending brush. Kind of had to go from dark to light, but that's okay. Okay. I'm going to go a little soft because I know I've got a little bit of residual Raspberry Bliss on there, but that's going to kind of blend out on its own. I almost feel like the stencils on this set are cheating because they're so quick and easy. There's just so little that you actually have to blend in there. And yes, Debbie, I know I'm so bummed out, but you know what though? You know what I'm really excited to see? All of you that have a flawed stamp set, I hope some of you at least are trying this with the no line style color. So stenciling without the stamp set. And I can't wait to see you post your cards because I haven't tried it that way yet. And I'm kind of excited to see how it comes out. So please post those in the album when you're done because I'm thinking that's going to give a whole new creative twist to this. So you might even find that it is a different and unique way that you didn't expect to like it. So there is that pink on there. So the next color I'm gonna move on to is Key Lime. I'm gonna line up, and this is just, oh, and you know what? Yeah, okay, so I take that back. There is a tiny bit of masking on this one, but I just didn't add any deeper color. That's what I forgot to, I think I forgot to make note of that on the project sheet. So I forgot about it till just now getting to it. So just mask off that little part of the butterfly. You're not even gonna see that extra layer, so. Allison, it might have glitter on it, but you know what? It probably isn't going to hurt it. A little glitter on your project's not going to cause a problem. But I don't know. I'm going to have to look at mine and see. I don't think mine doesn't look like it's glittery, so maybe it just happens to be a chance that you used it for something and got a little bit of glitter in there. I don't know. So little tiny, just the details on the leaves for this one. I had to go look at my Sparkling Rose because it is funny that the name of it is Sparkling Rose. So it is kind of ironic that you feel like there's some glitter in there. Okay. Pull off that extra little mask that I forgot we needed. Glad I noticed that in time. And we're almost done, you guys. That's, I don't know if you can even tell, it's such a tiny little bit of detail on those leaves, but it really is something, I promise. It just adds a tiny little touch. And then we just need this tiny last layer that's going to hit the detail on the flowers again. And the little outer layer of the butterflies. Line that up, tape that in place. And this one is going to be bubblegum, another one of my favorite ones. We're going to hit this one nice and crisp and bold as well. Like I said, this is the card that I probably did go more heavy-handed on. Now I'm going to call it Shannon style. Just because the openings are so small, so you might as well make sure you really get that pop of color in there. Okay, these are all done. For Rose, what's her name? Oh, that is in pretty. So even if you really quick, now that I am done, I will show you. I think we've showed in other videos, but in case you haven't seen, I'm going to take a moment and show you how we do like to clean our stencils. You can use a damp cloth, you can use everything else, but Leah and I both keep a bottle of rubbing alcohol on our desk. And all it takes is a little spritz over the top, a quick wipe with a microfiber cloth. I always turn it over and hit the other side too. And all of your ink comes off like magic, and it's already dry. I could move right to another color and start stenciling right away. So I might actually just, since we're making such good time thanks to our assembly line process, I'm just going to clean these all, especially when you get to those pinks. I love how quickly they clean up. And I used to clean stencils with like a damp cloth and things like that. But once I discovered the rubbing alcohol, I fell in love with it because I hated having to kind of set my stencils out and wait for them to dry. Oops, set that down hard. And then, you know, if you tried to stencil too quick and you still had some moisture on your stencil, then it messed up. You got water on your cardstock panel, but there you go. Those are now crisp and clean. They look brand new. I mean, there's maybe a tiny bit of pink color on there, but pretty much brand new. And now you know there's no residual ink that's gonna ruin between layers and stick on, especially those pinks and reds can be a little tricky to get off. So I wanted to make sure and show that for you as well. Now I can put that away. I love cleaning up as I go too. I'm like Leah. Sometimes I just shove things off to the side, but. All right, we're gonna pull our stamping platform back out. And here's the big brave moment. I'm gonna make sure it's cornered down here, and I'm gonna make sure that it still lines up, that we've got perfect alignment and it looks good. Mentioned before, I did a panel and I stamped it wrong. So I like to just really, really make sure that it's exactly where I want it and in the right spot before I stamp that detailed black over the top. Go for it. Again, if you want to stamp over again with the gray or whatever other color you used, Stargazer would be beautiful on this, that really deep blue. It's kind of a good alternative to detail black. Use a cloth to kind of press that down first. Oh, but I love the color when you put detail black over a detailed image like that. I mean, just like its name, detail black. It's so crisp and pretty and detailed. You know, I think I hold my breath every time now, Leah, after that one time. All right, so if you are doing the no line, you're just gonna have a softer look, but here it is with the detail black. And when you get your replacement stamp, then you can do it with that and see the comparison as well. All right, I'm going to pull back out my damp cloth here, throw my stamp cleaner over that. I do often use a toothbrush like Leah has used, but sometimes I can get it pretty good just with the damp cloth and get in there with that stamp cleaner. So I'm just gonna go for that for now and get it cleaned that way. I like to clean detail black off quickly. It was an error before. Yes, you can totally recover and go back. It is absolutely possible. All right, we do still need this one more time, but I peeled it off because this time I'm gonna line it up on our card panel for this card. We're going to use it as a placeholder for where we're going to reassemble all these pieces on, but with some added dimension. And the way I discovered that this worked better, I took the long way around. First, I used the die cut negative. I taped it over my card base and fit everything in and then tried to peel that off. It kind of worked, kind of didn't. It really didn't work well, because some of them were kind of in there a little fiddly. So I had things ripping and tearing and it was kind of a mess. So then I realized I could just stamp with this in a soft ink right on my card base, then just like putting a puzzle together, reassemble each of these pieces over the top. so much easier. So we're gonna go that way. So grab out one of your top folding card bases, whichever one you want. And this absolutely does not matter what color ink you stamp it on. It is 100% not gonna show. So it doesn't even have to be a perfect impression. All this is doing is getting and kind of as a placeholder so you can fit everything back in. It's like those little kid puzzles that have the pictures and you just match up the little wooden puzzle piece that fits into that. Have lots of Jeff, you do have a stamp. That's of you. What I would suggest doing is cut out, whether you cut out or just use the die. I'm gonna move my little misty magnet. So I would put this over the top. So while we're stamping, if your stamp isn't working, I just grab a quick little pencil and just sketch in a few lines to use as a placeholder. So this is, again, is just if you had a flawed stamp, or even, yeah, it depends how your stamp is flawed. It probably wouldn't work to stamp it anyway. So I would just put this over, grab a little pencil and just kind of put some little outlines. Just hit a couple corner spots so you can see where they go. You can still very easily refer to the back of the packaging to actually see where everything goes, but that'll just give you the guidelines a little bit easier to know where they go. So hopefully that helps kind of work around that problem a little bit. Okay. And I think I'm going to turn my card base over because my metal die kind of snapped around and left some little marks on there. So, okay. I'm going to, where did I put it? Oh, there we go. I'm just going to do this in that rocky slope. Oh, and you know what? Brown embossing pad, dry emboss. Great idea, Joanne. You could totally do that. Absolutely. Great idea. So dry emboss, and that'll just give you the spot as the placeholder. So again, I'm stamping it there. Not going to worry about a perfect image. That is all going to be covered up. And then one last quick, just clean all of the ink off of this stamp. And now I can put this away and move on. Let's see, where did I? Oh, that's right. It's like, where's my stamp backing? The other thing, if you, depending on if your stamp set, yeah, if your stamp set to use those. If those don't work, just so here is a great little trick. I'm gonna grab, these big panels and how I said something about not being wasteful and everything. I'm gonna trim a little bit off of the bottom of both of these. I have a little bit of ink smudging on the front, but all we have to do is turn it over. And then we can use these to stamp our sentiments. I'm waiting to see, I saw it was kind of freezing up for a couple people, so I'm hoping it's sorted itself out. I'm going to grab that little beautiful image there, grab that stamp. Just going to kind of go, and Suzanne, yes, you can cut it as a template and glue them in, but I found that a little bit fiddly. Feel free to do that if you want. Just know it didn't work as smoothly as I thought it was gonna, because if you don't get everything set in there just right, it can be a little finicky. So we're gonna stamp this large word with the coral reef. So the beautiful, I don't know why Facebook's just tired at the end of the day. I'm gonna just keep moving. This part isn't super specific, but I'm stamping it with Coral Reef ink. And I'm probably going to stamp this 2 times just to make sure I get a great impression of that word. And then there's plenty of ink on there. A little more there in the middle. So there's that beautiful word stamped with Coral Reef. If Leah can let me know, if you can hear this, let me know if it seems to have smoothed out on your end and working better. That little Facebook glitch is done. I'm so sorry, guys. I have no idea why Facebook is not cooperating. Okay, sounds like it's working better. So if you miss something important, I don't know exactly where it froze for everybody because I'm not watching that part there. So do check out the PDF, has all of those colors for the stencils. And I know everyone's having bad weather too. So a lot of the it not working is probably because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep moving forward. And if you have any questions that I miss here, let me know. Otherwise, most of it should be answered and in the PDF. I'm going to use my tiny little detail black and stamp this little tiny little dainty sentiment. It says, hope your day is, which is going to go with the beautiful. Nice and soft. I tend to just do finger pressure there and stamp it as many times as I need to make sure I get that dainty, pretty sentiment that's not going to lose. Just plan on that. Okay. So yeah, someone's saying something about the PDF. Honest truth here, it's been a while since I made these cards. I've got my cards sitting in front of me, but right up on the wall above me, I have the pages from the PDF, and I'm kind of following along with that. And yes, Ellen, there is a die for the word hello as well as beautiful. They are tiny, so they might have gotten misplaced or fallen off of your sheet. I've had them slide off a few times in my stamp packaging. I'm thinking about moving them up to the top just because I'm wondering if they'll stay put a little bit better. So, but we only need the die for the word beautiful. So we are all done stamping now. The stamp set can go away. The beauty of the assembly line of stamping is we don't need this anymore. We finished our ink blending, we finished our stamping. So we're going to move on to lots of die cutting and assembling and putting everything together. I'm glad it wasn't just me, Leah. I was thinking that was funny, that almost like I'm cheating by doing that. Okay, stencil and stamp going back into there. I keep my full sets in just a clear pocket. So I put the stamp, the stencil, and then I slide the die in when I'm done. And then I also keep any extra pieces. This was the word beautiful. I wasn't sure if I wanted it in Coral Reef or Passion Fruit. I ended up going with Coral Reef. So I kept that extra one for another time and another day. Okay, it is time to die cut. So let's start with, this is where I'm going to split up. I'm not going to do all the die cutting in one. We're going to do all the die cutting for card 1, and then we'll do our die cutting for card 2 because there's a lot of extra pieces. The teacher's cheating. Yes. When the teacher wrote the test, the teacher gets to cheat. I think that's only fair. Isn't that right? All right, I'm going to split between. I'm going to move things out of the way. I'm going to use my Gemini to do some of this die cutting, just because my hands are tired from typing and moderating all day, and I want to spend a little less time cranking my manual machine. So, oh yes, in between the folded paper. That's a great idea. Yeah, check your packaging, check in your box, check around on your floor and make sure they didn't disappear and vanish on that. All right, this one piece die, I'm just gonna kind of settle it around until I'm happy alignment. One thing to check on these one die, your alignment in my back. So I'm looking at it kind of at an angle. So sometimes it doesn't look like it's lined up, but then when I turn it up or I can put my head over the top, I can see, oh, yeah, that's lined up perfectly. So just kind of adjust it around until you're happy with where it's lined up. And then I'm going to take this over to my die cut machine and run it through. Be right back. And one thing I always like to double check, sometimes on this, because it's pretty intricate, you might need to run it through twice or use a metal shim. So I'll just kind of rotate it around to a different direction. I'm going to run this just one more time to make sure it all came out. I also need to, there we go. Now I can see when you turn it over now, you can see all those lines are crisp and all the way through. Some of them were looking a little sketchy before, but I didn't even use a metal shim. I just ran it through 2 times. So my plate is getting, these last really well, but it is getting a tiny bit warped. I use, it's a Jennifer McGuire sandwich, and I just rotate them every, I don't know, a couple months or something. I do a lot of die cutting, and these are definitely due up for a little bit of a rotation. Peel that tape off. And then we're going to have all of these beautiful little bitty pieces. And now you know why I'm not doing all of the die cutting assembly line style, because that would get a little crazy really quick. And I don't want to have all the pieces getting mixed up. So just kind of lay all these out on your desk. We're going to be using every single one of them for our card. Tip of your scissors. If you have pokey fingernails. My favorite is a little piercing tool. And I'll just get all those little spare tiny pieces popped out. They might pop out easily for you just when you pull the die off. I've used my die a few times now, and I notice sometimes the more I use it, it kind of comes out differently further on. Okay, and there's not that many of these either. I think this is the last one that has, but it's worth punching those little the deep in the flower. It's just something you get different than you would with fussy cutting out or something like that. This is the black one. This is not the heat embossed one. We're going to do that one again. It's the second card in the PDF. We just did some of the steps together, but we're going to wait on the die cutting for that one until we get to that spot. But we do need to die cut that beautiful word. That's the one other thing we need to die cut here. And pin that just beautiful word die in place and run this over and die cut this real quick. Pop that word off so we have that ready for the sentiment. Now we have You have this piece to die cut. I'm doing this one a little bit different. Everyone else, I think, that used it in class used it with the coordinating die to cut it out. But there's also, you can see on the packaging, this option where it just cuts out and leaves a window. And I thought that was kind of a fun, different trick. So we're gonna leave that outer frame on. You're not gonna use that one. And we're just gonna use that inner frame piece. And this is gonna be done into one of those A2 panels that was part of your homework. Way there. So you should already have this trimmed down 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, same as our A2 card fronts. And I'm going to just really carefully line this up, center it. I want those parts that are poking out more, kind of the top and bottom. I want to make sure those are aiming towards the top and bottom. I'm going to do a tiny piece of Post-it tape, just little tiny pieces, because I want to hold this in place without, oops, where did that go? Oh, there it is. Putting my card here where I can see it, because I want to make sure I've got it. So the way I tried to center this, Kimberly, if you're asking about me, I don't think anyone in my house is using the internet right now, and we have super fast internet that we can do 10 different live streams and it shouldn't dip like that. So I think this is more of a Facebook issue today. Okay, how I tried to tape that in place, I just used a tiny bit. I tried to get it so the top is about as far distant from the top edge as both the side pieces are. It's just going to make it feel a little more centered. And then run this over and run this through my Gemini as well. And peel that Post-it tape off because I don't need that on there anymore. And then just carefully pull this off. Some of those little negative pieces are going to stay attached in the die. It looks like one of them did on mine. Don't worry if you are falling behind. This is the last one of the day. These are up for rewatch and replay, so you can catch up as many times as you need to and watch these later. And pop all these little negative pieces. It just adds to the detail and the framing on there. And then pop it out as well. Now this is a pretty delicate die, so I know we had some people were having a little trouble cutting it. Feel free to use a metal shim to help with this. Run it through 2 times like I did with that other, the die for the butterfly garden set. Sometimes that's helpful. Like I said, my plates are a bit warped right now, so I know they're not cutting. I meant to get them switched before this weekend and I just ran out of time. This is just an A2 card panel, Kathy. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we just cut it right out of the middle. So now you've got all of that really pretty detail cut into the frame. And then this is going to go on our card base in a minute, but we couldn't just leave it alone there. I mean, we could just put it on like that. But I did want to add that embossed detail to the background using that beautiful GeoArch stencil piece. So this is an A2 card panel. I am going to trim it slightly smaller when we're done, but I'm going to leave it full size until I get it embossed, just because if it slides and moves, then I can trim on whichever side I need to. Okay, so for this part, I feel like I know the sandwich better with my binders for the dry embossing. We posted tested any of the machines. Well, some of the other we weren't familiar with that pass. So spritz your paper with water. Yes, that actually does help. I'm not going to do that because I don't want it wet to start adhering it. I don't have time to set it aside to dry. But yes, so the platform, I've got the magnetic platform. I just like that. And then the tan embossing mat, your cardstock, your hot foil plate there. And the bonus is with that metal platform that I have, it's not going anywhere. And then just one top cutting plate. We're going to run that through squeaky machine. And we've got that beautiful dry emboss panel. And I think I forgot, usually I add a little bit of a shim in there to get, in fact, I'm going to do that one more time. I forgot with my machine, I actually have better luck if I add an extra cardstock shim. So I'm going to use that one as my shim to put in and run that through one more time. I just feel like that gives me, and again, every machine and sandwich is going to be slightly different. I'm just doing an A2 card panel for this one, Kim. I'm going to trim it down slightly. So if you pre-trim it down, that's fine. I'm just going to start with it bigger. There we go. That gave me a little more detail in my impression. So if you feel like you're doing the sandwich that we put and recommended and it's just not hitting as much as you want it to, keep that in mind, but that's a great way to just bump up the pressure a little. One more piece of cardstock and super easy. Okay. So now I'm going to do a little tiny bit of trimming here. Pull out your paper trimmer. I'm going to only trim off on this about, because if you look on here, it's going to go pretty close to the edges. So I'm only going to trim off really about 1/4 of an inch, at least on the sides. The top to bottom, you have a little more wiggle room, but I'll still only do a 1/4 inch there. I want enough space to be able to put it on without worrying about it being so bulky at the edges. Okay, if you're having trouble, I'm assuming you're talking about that ornate circle, having trouble with it releasing. If you look on the back there, well, maybe not. I thought there'd be some spots where there were the holes to poke through. So if you find that you're having a hard time though, grab out, if you have parchment paper or wax paper, that's a great way to put that in there. So you'd want to make your sandwich. Let me just show you real quick. You would put your paper down. You put your parchment or wax paper. Then you'd put your die over the top. So you have that parchment or wax paper between. So when you run it through and you pull it off, it's going to make it just release right off really easy. So, oh, Sheila, you're in Arizona. I'm in Washington State. You don't get things wet if you want them to dry in the same day. So tea leaf, that comment about getting the die to release, try that. If you have a hard time getting that one out, grab a little parchment or wax paper and that will help get that out. Oh, and then one other thing here with our paper trimmer. Let's trim down that little secondary sentiment. Just kind of line it up there in the paper trimmer. I just want to get it fairly close and tight to that sentiment. Make sure it's square and straight. Come back a little bit. I like to trim it first into a strip. And then you can use scissors to trim off the extra. Since I'm just here and ready with my paper trimmer, I'm just going to trim it all down now. I don't have to worry about the straight edges. All right, that's all done. I didn't even notice that Arizona was, I'm just glancing so quick at the comments to keep up with everything. Okay, we've got all of our pieces. Now it's assembly time. So first of all, grab your dry embossed panel. That's got that detail on there. If you're running behind and ran out of time, you can easily skip that layer. You can see it on the card. It's kind of tucked back there. I'll show you my sample one, but it's not a make or break kind of deal. So it's just a tiny added detail. So if you feel like you're kind of stressed and trying to keep up, don't feel bad at all if that's the little part that you have to skip or not bother with. Okay, I put some adhesive on the back of this. You can use liquid adhesive, tape runner, whatever you want. And I'm just gonna center this on my white top folding A2 card base. I ended up just doing both of my cards in an A2 style. I originally had thought I was gonna do a slimline version, but ended up just working out to do 2 A2 cards. So the make and take that Leah made with this stamp set uses a slimline design with all of these cutout pieces, which is beautiful. All right, next thing we need to do is this needs to be popped up with foam adhesive because this is where we're going to tuck all of those florals in. So we want a little bit of dimension on that. So I'm going to pull out my foam tape. I'm going to trim. I actually have some pieces that I've already trimmed in half. Don't want to hit any those little thin areas. Going to kind of avoid those. So I'm essentially going to tape the foam tape kind of around that area so I have enough to hold it up and make it stable, but not enough to make it difficult. Okay, a couple questions. Which side of the geo arch is up? It's up to you. I did the part that was facing the die. The other side's beautiful as well. And the geo arch is also, Cindy, what I trimmed 1/4 inches off. You don't have to because it's going to go right to the card edge and this is going to go, but it just made it less bulky at the edges. I felt like it didn't show all those layers. So when I put this on, you're not going to see as many layers. So not that big. Arch die almost cuts through. Oh, on your, check your sandwich, Angela, I just realized I was thinking the ornate frame, the ornate circle. So the arch, when you're trying to dry emboss, you probably have too much pressure. So check those sandwiches. You notice how I had to add an extra piece of cardstock. You might need to take a plate out and just add a couple pieces of cardstock, kind of play with, if it's cutting through, you definitely have too much pressure. So you're going to want to adjust that on there. Definitely. I'm going to put this along the bottom, and then I'm only going to take and hit a little bit up the sides here and a little bit up the side here. So I'm not going to do too much. I know it's hard to believe. I'm a lover of foam adhesive, but I want to leave this space open enough because some of these florals are going to tuck from the front kind of down under there. And I want to have them free to be able to slide them in. So leave yourself some space there. Do yourself a little favor. I do see though, I'm going to put some little tiny scraps along the side just because I don't want these little tiny pieces to sag. So it's a little bit of fiddly getting the foam in there because there's a lot of little tiny areas, but if you're using foam dots or small foam strips, then it's going to be easier, but just trimming it down isn't too hard. Yeah, Christine, keep just playing with, once you figure out what that sandwich is, I highly recommend that you write it down and make a note of it. Because if you're anything like me, it's going to be a while till you do it again, and then you're going to totally forget. So especially if you put the time into figuring out, make sure you write it down somewhere where you won't forget where it is, and you'll have that as a reference. Okay, all my foam backing is peeled off. I'm just going to kind of middle there. And then head in here so I can just lined up perfectly with liquid glue on there to make sure that it will give you a little wiggle room. But I think we got it all on there. And see, I don't know if you can kind of see why I trim that dry emboss panel down a little bit, just because then it looks cleaner on the edges. It's a small detail. So Tracy, you can always send an email to our customer service account. We might be able to help you a little more specifically with which machine and what sandwich you're using, because it's likely there's just too much pressure and something needs to be adjusted. So don't give up yet. Every machine is slightly different. So, right, all of our little pieces, getting all those laid out, and I'm gonna bring my original down so I kind of have that as a reference. So the very first one, I know I picked and used these two biggest ones. So first thing I'm gonna do is tuck this one down over on the side. So it kind of goes behind there and comes out. And I'm going to kind of arrange all of these and make sure I'm happy with it before I commit to everything. So these two pieces first, and then this little one's going to go right in the middle. I'll tuck that one down a little further, that one up a little higher. So I kind of start building with my main pieces first, all of the pink flowers. So you can see there now I have a good spread of the pink flowers. And then we can start taking all the other little pieces and tuck them in around there. So this one I'm going to tuck behind these two. And then this other large one, all the ones with the white flowers, is going to tuck kind of in and behind there, and then pull this one back out. So this right here is the basic main arrangement of the entire thing. Actually tuck that one in too low. So once you've kind of got this laid out and you're happy, all the others are going to be really easy to tuck around and add. So I'm going to start by gluing all of these down. I just like to kind of get them in there, make sure I'm happy. You can pull some Post-it tape and pick them all up and get them in place, but I'm just going to move from back to front. And I'm going to use liquid glue because it gives me a little time to make sure it works. Okay. Get a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this one. And then I'm going to tuck that down under, rearrange these so that I'm happy with it, slide it around. Okay, slide that one off to the side, and then I'll do, whoop, get that back. More just sticking down directly. Let's get still, and then press those in place. Okay, so now we have those back two ones on. As you can see, they kind of overlap in the center. Have a little drink. 2 hours is a long time to talk. Anyone else? Okay, for those back ones, I just left them plain. For these ones, I want that tiny little bit of extra dimension. So I'm going to kind of floof them up. I think Leah calls it fluffing. I like to call it floofing. The best type of embossing powder, fine detail. For the other card that we're going to work on, this card does not have any embossing on it. So only the very bottom of this is going to tuck under there. And then the rest of it's just going to pop right over the top like that. So that way you don't lose any of those little details and you get all of those flowers popping up the side. And then same thing on this one, few little dots of glue. You don't have to cover the whole thing with glue, but just enough. And then just barely tuck that under the edge there and overlap that, and then press that into place with the glue that we have there. And it's okay to leave some of it floating free. That's just going to give you a fun little bit of dimension. And then this one is going to fit right in the middle there. Push all that glue down and make sure everything's holding in place. So now we have the main part built. So now we just need to start tucking in the other pieces. So I'm going to use there's two longer pieces. And then we've got this one here that's got a little curve to the left. And then we've got this one that's got a little curve to the right. And I'm going to just bring this down as a comparison. So I can see I used this little piece tucked in up here. So I'm going to just kind of set that in the general vicinity. This one that curls out is tucked back behind here. So I'm going to set that in that vicinity. This little piece is going to come out of that beautiful at the bottom. So this piece I'll save till I put that beautiful word down. And then this other piece here is the other one. Both of those are going to come out of the word beautiful. So we'll save those till the end. And then let's see here. I can see that I have the little tiny one is kind of popping out from behind here. So let's get that there. This other little short stubby one is popping out from here. And then this is coming out over. So hope you kind of see all those laid out. I've got 5 little pieces laid on, and these two set up. I'm just going to kind of go slow so that you can see each of those coming on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tucked around, and the 2 small. This part's a little hard to show, so I'm trying to go nice and slow on this one. And I'm just going to go clockwise from the bottom and tuck these in. You don't even have to add these. It's already very pretty without, but I can't resist the little extra bit of greenery. I think it just kind of fills it in and makes it so, I don't know, like walking into a garden, and gives you that fun detail. And most of these only need a tiny, tiny dot of liquid glue to hold them in place. And if you have any trouble figuring out the arrangement, first of all, you don't even have to do the same arrangement I did. It is very much a creative process that you can twist up and do your own style in. But those PDFs have nice close-up photos, or the project albums are going to have those great photos that are going to show you how to tuck those into. So refer to those photos if you want. Oh goodness. You know what though, Holly? I bet they look beautiful glued up there. I was mostly just kind of showing you the general vicinity of where they went. I'm kind of a planner. I like to plan it out and lay it out. Sorry that I made that confusing for you. Oh yeah. Then we need our butterflies. I'm going to do the same thing, slightly curl these ones up just to get a tiny, tiny bit of dimension. And that little this one just kills me, that little adorable pink butterfly. So I'm going to tuck that one in first. You can see it kind of goes in the middle there where it's kind of flying in the center of that little circle area. And then the big mama butterfly, that one goes up over here. And I'm kind of putting it so it almost looks like it's landing on that flower, like it's just about to hit there. This one over here. And these top 2, I kind of planned so they're facing in towards the design. It's a little bit that makes them a little more pleasing to the eye. Instead of having them look out, it makes the design feel less cohesive. So by having them kind of look in, it just kind of draws your eyes down to where that sentiment's going to be. And you know what, Sharon? They're all going to be beautiful. That's the great thing about this. You don't have to use the colors that we are using for the class. And I've loved seeing Leah's class said I didn't have the same ones, so I did my own thing and it was beautiful. Okay, this little tiny pre-trimmed foam adhesive strips. Best I can. This is a pretty dainty and little sentiment, so I'm not going to worry about getting foam on all of it, honestly. I'm just going to kind of hit enough to hold it in place because it's hard to do it without that foam adhesive showing from behind. So, and I don't like that. So I'm going to go really gentle on that. Alternatively, you could cut additional layers from the die just from white cardstock to layer up, but I didn't do that on here. So, and Sharon, there you go. Just add some Copic coloring. There you go. This image it's so small and easy to color. You really wouldn't even have to do any shading. This would be a super cute image to color up with Copic markers or color pencils, or emboss resist. If you stamp the image in clear embossing powder, yeah, all those little foam adhesive backing pieces. It would also be really beautiful for that. Okay, I'm going to center this on the bottom, just so. And then we have this other little tiny piece. We're also going to grab a little tiny piece of foam adhesive to adhere that down with. And tuck that so that it nestles right in the beautiful. So the day is kind of fits between the B and the T, hoping that kind of shows there. It just makes the sentiment feel like it's all connected together, which I love. I'll curl that up a little. So let me show that to you a little bit closer. Kind of see how that tucks in there. So cute. Now that we have that down, we can add those last two greenery pieces. I always like to wait until I get the sentiment on there because it's a little hard to judge exactly where it's going to fit until you get to that point. And that just kind of completes that whole little drawing the eyes to the sentiment. You know, as fun as like the stamping and the ink blending and all of that is at the beginning, this is what I love about doing that assembly line, is you get to the end and you just get to do the playing and the arranging and the finishing touches. So other than bling that we'll add at the end, this card is all done. And I'm going to do the final assembly line bit by moving over to the other card. Then we'll come back and add our embellishments right at the very end. I promise we'll come back and do that. Hey, and you know what, Michelle? These were not specific to either way. You absolutely could reverse the order. This one is probably beautiful with the gold heat embossing on there. And then this one will just be the stamped and stenciled, and it will still be lovely. So switch whichever way you want, but we're going to move on to this version. So we have our card base with just our simple stamped image, or if you had one of those flawed stamp sets, you might have put the die on and kind of played with kind of sketching it in a little bit. But let's pull out. And the teacher forgot to do the homework, so you get to watch me do all the homework too. So I'm going to die cut. I'm going to die cut this piece, and then I still need to die cut 2 additional pieces. So I'm going to be running my Gemini here for a few minutes, but that's okay. And then we'll assemble it. So if you didn't get that done, you can cut along with me. If you did do that in advance, then feel free to kick back and relax or catch up on something else. And I'm going to put my Gemini back to use and run and die cut this real quick. All right, first main one done. I'm going to reuse these pieces of tape as well. I just went ahead to be safe, ran it through my die cut machine 2 times. That way I knew it would cut and get all those pieces. I'm gonna got a couple little tiny stragglers of the tiny pieces. And then I'll punch these all out in a second, but let's go ahead and go do the second cut on these. And see, it really doesn't even take that long. So I've already got this one done. About popping those out in a moment. More. That's our last piece to cut, you guys, and then we're all done. Be right back one last time. Okay, die cutting all done. How many of you guys did that with me? And how many die cut machines I was hearing in the background. All right, we do not need every single one of these white pieces. You can if you want, but I didn't want to put every last little piece, stack them up together. So the only ones I did, let's swap this out real quick so that I have it ready. I pretty much did the large floral pieces. So let's pop them out of here. We're going to want to use all of these. But I chose just to pop the largest flowers and the 3 larger butterflies. Pick, mix, match, whichever ones you feel like popping up on foam. But you'll see when you put it together, it just adds, I mean, you could pop them up even on foam adhesive, but the die cut pieces make it a really stable, solid, kind of a unique look that I love. So I'm going to set the pieces here that we want the white backdrops to, and those are the only ones I'm going to worry about popping out of my white die cut pieces. And then the rest you can save for something else. If you ever want to pop those other little ones, you could do a reverse and pop up. And Brenda, there you go. You can pop them all. I thought it was fun having the difference, but if you want to take the time to assemble them all together, then absolutely. All right, so those butterflies, not that one. That butterfly, yes. And then all these little pieces I didn't worry about. So you can see here, we're going to have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flowers and 3 butterflies. And those are the only ones that I chose to do. Yes, no regrets at all. You can pop up as many as you want. Those, and then these 2 bottom ones. I think we're doing good on time, right? We're getting close to done. Pretty much all we have to do is assemble these, stick everything down, and add some bling, and then we are all done. Yep, that's one we want. Not going to worry about that piece. Kind of stacking them up together as I get them pulled out so I can make sure that I've gotten the ones off that I want. You could also use thicker pieces. I think someone else was talking about stacking their frames and how they used a thicker piece of, oh, there we go. Like 120-pound cardstock, and then I didn't have to stack up as many of these. Simple little, take a minute and pop those little openings out so you get the detail in there. That one doesn't have any, that one just has that one. And then liquid glue or a glue pen is going to be your friend to assemble these. I prefer liquid glue because I like to be able to kind of take that minute to adhere them together and slide them into place. So I know they're going to line up perfectly. There we go. Negative piece was hanging on. And this is the last one, and then all those little holes. And again, you've all had a nice little relaxing break if you did all that in advance. So assembly time. And I also, this little tool that I love to use, it's a Studio Cadia embellishment tool. I like to use it for assembling some of these together as well. So a few little dots of liquid glue, kind of in some strategic places. It doesn't have to be everywhere. And pop those down, pick them up, and kind of just with that liquid glue, slide them around until they're perfectly lined up and in place. And then we can grab the matching top to each one. It's kind of like putting a little puzzle together. But to me, it's super fun. I don't mind a bit. And slide that up and just use your hands to kind of guide it and make sure you've got it lined up to the edges. Number one is done. Let's move on and just do each of these just like this. This is a great time to kind of relax and catch. Just the slow assembly, but not really difficult. It doesn't take any brain power. I love a simple touch that you can do that's just a little investment in time and putting it together. You know what, Donna, you probably could. I haven't used adhesive sheets much, to be honest, but feel free to give that a try. That might be, I don't know, that might be something quicker and easier. So totally an option. But again, to me, this isn't too hard. I can just detail some little dots of glue on there and then slowly make sure everything slides in before I press it down. Where sometimes it's the simple little things like this that allowing yourself just the time. We all get so much on a schedule and life always feels so rushed, and slowing down. There's already some things we do that save some time and stress, like layering stencils and one-piece dies. And so sometimes it's these little extra bits of time and attention and love that you can put into them, you know, especially if you're making it for someone that means a lot. It's just adding that extra touch of time and effort. And at the same time, this exact same card would be pretty easy to do without that added dimension. Again, this is just a little, it's bumping the design up a little. Essentially, I'm showing you a way to add more, to make it a little more special and unique. So if this is too fiddly and annoying for you, you can entirely skip this step and just move on to where we start assembling this onto, there, a little fuzz on there. There we go. Couldn't quite get it off. This is the last of the flowers we need to adhere down. I see someone saying if they used adhesive sheets, they would still use glue because it kind of grabs and touches. So I can see that, because that is part of what I like on this, is I can pick it up, and because of that glue, I can kind of slide it around, adjust it where I want, and make it, make sure it's just right. This is where I'm going to pull that little sticky tool out, because these are a little smaller and more fiddly. So instead of trying to get my fingers to pick that up, I can just do that and drop it on. And by then it's a little more dimensional and easier one. So see all these ones that I left over here to the right, basically the tiny butterfly and all the little just leaf pieces. I'm personally skipping those because it's a lot. And someone else said they did all of them and they have zero regrets. So pick what you want to adhere. I just kind of picked the main big ones to pop up. But you have all the pieces cut out with the die. So Ash K, feel free to do which ones you really feel like you would like to stack. Grab my little embellishment tool there. And then I'm doing the 3 larger butterflies as well. So 5 different of the large blooms and then the 3 of the largest butterflies. I'm almost done here. We've got 1 left. And then we can wrap this up, get these adhered down. Oops, dropped my embellishment tool. Sorry about that. I got loud quick. And then the last one there. Okay, all of our stacking is done. So now it's like putting a puzzle together. You can do this right on. Oh, you know, I've done that before. We've talked about that before. Good job catching up and doing it. You can totally do that. I have done it live. So don't worry at all. You can replay and catch up the end of this. So don't worry about that a bit. Yep, reverse tweezers. I know a lot of people really like those as well. Okay, this part now, I just had to clean the gunk off of my thing. For this, I'm gonna just 1 piece at a time, put a little glue on my image that's on my card. And I can pick up, like I said, piece it in, basically just center it so I can't see any of that stamped image underneath. And just like that, we're good to go. I'm only hitting just the leaves and the flowers, all the spots I know are going to be cut up by the stamp image. Look how easy this is to put together. So much harder if you try and fit it into the negative and then make it work. And I'm just going, you can go in any order, any of my, in fact, you can put it on the back of the die cut pieces as well. But if you're a jigsaw puzzle person, this is like turning that into card making for you. Okay, and just keep kind of pressing it down. The glue sticks and grabs and adheres pretty quickly. So it should be pretty easy to get these all down. And then that butterfly is just the single piece going down. It doesn't have the added dimension, which is on purpose. And again, if it's easier for you to put the glue on the back of your die cut piece, if you're worried about getting glue where you don't want it, feel free to do that. I just like putting it down and being able to slide that into place. And I'm just klutzy enough that I would get my glue on there, turn it over and drop it in the wrong spot and get glue. So, okay. Sorry, I had to get a quick sip of water, just reading. I think there were a few comments. Okay, gonna keep just moving through. Most of those little pieces fit down at the bottom. So those are gonna be easy to finish and add at the end. Okay. Oops, that one in there. And then get that butterfly tucked in there. All right, I'm going to do the other 2 big pieces, the big florals, and then I'll come in and get all those little bitty greenery bits next. I also feel like using the stamp image as kind of my guide is a little bit easier, even as you can see the image, so you can match it up more directly. It's kind of like so just drop that. If I'd had my glue on the back of that piece, I would have glue where I didn't want it right now. Okay, that is all of our bumped up pieces and our little butterfly. So now we just need to add those last little pieces of greenery. And this one is where the puzzle piecing comes in a little more because you got to kind of check and Make sure you get the right ones because these ones look a little more similar. Oops. So let that image kind of be your guide there to get those all in the right places. And again, if you wanted, you could do all of this in one piece in one panel, and then you wouldn't even have to do this piecing together. It'd be a great one layer card to pop in the mail or something like that. It just kind of shows how the stamp set really works well in its full image, even without die cutting the pieces. That's what I love there. Yes, and I saw that Leah just answered, this is the Studio Katia one. I think they're all fairly similar. I've had this one for a couple years and use it a ton. Works really good for those little pieces too. If I use it for bling and jewels and that kind of stuff all the time. But I also love it for these little, oops, I almost put the wrong one there. These little pieced in paper bits as well. Last one. Guys ready? And yes, inlay. You know what? That would actually be really pretty too if you stacked up the outer layers and then put it in. You could turn it into a shaker card if you stamped it and then did the die cut piece and popped it over the top. So many different ways to kind of mix and match this technique. What that looks and how that's all working together there. And then the only thing we have left is to add our sentiment and then pull both cards out and add our bling. So we're going to use one of those lovely pre-printed sentiments. I really liked choosing one with a round shape to put in the middle. You can choose any single one that you like or want to use. But I just thought that round did a good job of kind of fitting in there and not covering up too much of the design that I loved. Oh, and Laura, that's a great idea, mixing and matching even different layers just to get different dimension there. All right, I am going to pop up this sentiment on foam adhesive because we've got a little dimension with the paper, but not anything too crazy. And I want to kind of get that popped up off the background. And also, there's several round sentiments in there, so you can kind of pick from any of those. I almost used one of the rectangle ones, so those are pretty great too. But I'm just going to center it on there. I've got my foam adhesive on the back already and pop it down so it's tucked around the butterflies on there. And then let's pull out our first card, and our final step here, if you're still sticking around, is to do our embellishments, those beautiful clear iridescent droplets that are in the kit. I'm going to pop them on our fun little tray and just throw a few around both of these cards. Okay, this card I'm going to do a couple of little trios. And I think the way I picked on this one is I started with getting my original down that I can refer to. I'm going to use the largest one. Nope, I did not. I used the 3 smaller sizes on here. Couldn't remember till I got them on there. So there's a total of 4 sizes on there. And I'm using the 3 smaller sizes. So not the very largest, which you can do if you want still, but I ended up just going with this arrangement here for mine. And I like to get them all in place and make sure I'm happy with the arrangement before I stick everything down. Thank you so much. I'm so glad everyone had such a great day today. I know it was a bit of a whirlwind. If you were new to these events, hopefully we paced everything well. We learned a lot from the last one, kind of about how leaving those breaks in there is super duper helpful, how much that matters. And I'm just, so if you aren't keeping up with adding these on, totally refer to the PDF. I am literally looking at my first card because I fiddled around with these a lot to get them where I was happy with. So definitely take advantage of referring to that if you want help on the placement. Thank you everyone who hung out and stuck around today. I'm just gonna, yeah, we still got 4 minutes. I'm gonna finish putting these on just for anyone who wants to watch and do it along. And then it'll all be completely finished and done in the video. And then because I also know myself, tuck these all back into my package. And then we'll glue these down and then we're all done. Yes, April, I appreciated those breaks for the same reason. Time to run to the bathroom or get a snack or eat some lunch. Well, because of time zones, I pretty much ate lunch in the middle of Shannon's class, but my family cooked lunch, so that was helpful. Right, tucking these on. Just a tiny dot of liquid glue does such a great job of holding all of these embellishments on. Last one's here, and then just those 2 little groups of 3 on the other. Okay, then I can turn the camera around and we can say one last quick goodbye for the end of the day. And then you guys get to relax and enjoy your evening. And we'll see you again tomorrow. We're kicking off first thing with Manusri's watercolor class. I'm super excited to watch and hang out for that one. So looking forward to seeing that come together. All right, here are our finished cards. All the bling and everything put on there. Terry, I'm super excited that you liked it even better than you thought. Oh goodness, Paula, it's not that late here, but I think I could happily go crawl into bed right now. It's been a day. I'm gonna clean up my desk just a tiny bit here, make room so I can switch my camera around and say a quick goodbye to you guys right on time. And then we're finished and done. So glad that you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out. Those of you who made it all the way to the end of the day. I appreciate it. I enjoyed crafting with you. Hopefully you enjoyed all of your classes today. And just a reminder, you can catch all of these on replay as many times as you need. And then please, especially those of you who had the flawed stamp and maybe created these with just the stencils and the no line look, I would love to see all of your cards. So make sure and post those in the albums that we've created. That way they're all in one place and easy to find. And I'll be looking through those later to see what you created. All right, have a great evening, everybody. This is the end of the day. There's nothing else you're gonna miss. So we will see you tomorrow morning for day 2. Start time tomorrow is, let me think for a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. I'm pretty sure it's 10 a.m. Central. Hold on, I have the list here nearby. Yes, 10 a.m. Central time tomorrow. So depending on your time zone, that's 8 a.m. for me here in Pacific time. All right, I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great evening.